Welcome back to Mirror Readings. I'm Molly, and we're talking about Gene Key 35, which has the shadow of hunger, the gift of adventure, and the city of boundlessness. This shadow of hunger is a deeply primal, ancient human urge, right? Hunger, thirst, lust, needing to protect ourselves. These are primal urges that get us off our asses and out into the world, right? Without these primal urges, we don't get out and connect, right? The plot lines of our lives don't advance without these urges. So a certain amount of hunger is good, but that hunger can never be satiated, right? That's why it's a shadow. It's this primal urge that stays with us and keeps us wanting more and more and more, but we can never fully satiate it. So the big thing to remember with this shadow is to always leave ourselves a little bit hungry. All the shadow states in the gene keys have the quality of excess about them. And this excess hunger, it's just all about knowing when to quit. And if we don't know when to quit, it's about asking those around us, hey, is it time to quit? Richard Rudd says we must learn to drink tea with this shadow, which I think what he means by that is we need to learn to be with this hunger. We need to be able to sit with it because we know it can never be fully satiated. It's just like a very British and rather pretentious way of saying it, but you get what he means, right? We must learn to drink tea with our hunger. Richard, we're on it. So let's talk about this gift of adventure, because adventure is not like, sometimes these words mean different things in the gene keys than they do in the dictionary. And here, this gift of adventure means turning anything into an adventure, particularly the mundane. If we're able to make the ordinary and the boring and the cumbersome extraordinary and pleasurable, we've turned whatever it is we're doing into an adventure, and then we're in that gift frequency. I like to think of our gene keys profile as like a map to our hero's journey in this incarnation, right? And that call to adventure that brings us out into the hero's journey at the gift frequency, that has to do with anything that gets us out of ourselves and into connections with others or with nature or whatever the situation is. That becomes the call to adventure. And rather than needing a primal urge for survival, like hunger to get us out, our imagination and our open heart is what's motivating us to connect. Gene Key 35 has a cheeky subtitle, which is Wormholes and Miracles. And what that refers to is the wormholes that start forming, right, in all of these different silos of our lives, right? Richard Rudd calls this gift of adventure the silo buster, because what happens is that new connective tissue is formed in all these different areas of our lives the minute we start treating everything like an adventure, particularly the things we don't want to do. All of a sudden, looking at life with that attitude, we start making all of these connections between all of these other people and situations. And all of a sudden, like this whole other dimension of life opens up. Just the other day, I had a silo busted within me around this narrative that I've previously had about keeping my spirituality private. Like, don't share it at work, don't share it with specific groups of friends. And you know what? I had to do a work retreat the other week. It was kind of boring. I didn't really want to do it, but I treated it like an adventure. And I just let it fly about what a multidimensional spiritual weirdo I am in the context of the retreat in front of my coworkers. And guess what? A bunch of them are on the same spiritual path as me. Now we're talking about it. A whole new community has formed. And that came from me having that positive attitude of treating something I didn't really want to do as an adventure, right? Just being myself, being mindful of the silos and just saying, fuck it. All of a sudden, all this connective tissue has formed in my life that I never would have recognized before. Try it for yourself. This gene key is part of all of our lives, whether we have it in our profile or not. I personally don't, but that hunger is there. It's there in all of us. And we don't get rid of hunger by, ignoring it or telling it it's bad or whatever. We get rid of it by cultivating patience with it, okay? And feeding ourselves what we know we need, not excess. We really need our imagination to be able to access boundlessness, right? Because we have to imagine our consciousness beyond the confines of space-time. And identifying with our soul, right, and with all of these different lifetimes inherently brings us into our imagination. Like, we can't really conceive of that otherwise. So this city is an invitation for us to start identifying with our soul self and our soul family. We really need our imagination to be able to access boundlessness, right? Because we have to imagine our consciousness beyond the confines of space-time. And identifying with our soul, right, and with all of these different lifetimes inherently brings us into our imagination. Like, we can't really conceive of that otherwise. So this city is an invitation for us to start identifying with our soul self and our soul family. Think of it as an evolutionary shortcut that helps us both see the rest of infinity, so to speak, and cut right to the heart of any matter. Gene Key 35, outside of that shadow state, knows what's important. I mean, shit, even the shadow of hunger knows what's important, right? Surviving. But when, of course, those survival needs start dominating our whole lives, right? And primal urges take over, we lose our access to our spirit self. But man, can we cut through a lot of bullshit when we start identifying as a we rather than a me. A soul with all of these different expressions and experiences rather than as a single individual. And boundlessness, just imagining boundlessness, helps us get there. Boundlessness is governed only by love, okay? And the infinite possibilities that love contains. I'm Molly. Thank you so much for tuning into my channel. You're watching Mirror Readings, and if you'd like to get a Gene Keys reading from me, please visit my website, mirrorreadings.com, and all subscribers to this channel save 15% on my offerings.